Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cosmic Waves Tarot. Today I'm going to be doing a timeless love reading, and specifically I'll do a reading looking into the energies of your next date. So whether this is a first date that you're going on, or perhaps someone that you've been seeing for a while that you want some insight about, I'm just going to ask the tarot what we should know about your next date. And you'll see that I'm showing off my deck. Today I'm using the Aquarian Tarot. It's by the artist David Palladini. And it has a very cool kind of 70s aesthetic, a muted color palette, very Art Deco kind of vibes from this deck. And I really love using this deck when I want to switch up the vibes, use a deck that's similar to the Rider-Waite in a lot of ways, but just has a different feel. So now I'm going to shuffle the cards and ask the tarot, what message do we need to hear? For your next date. Just as a reminder, I'm always happy to read individual readings as well. So if you have a specific question or situation that you want some insight on, please go ahead and comment, and I will make a video in response. Ooh. Honestly, these might be the cards that we need today. They're a little bit stuck here. There we go. It looks like we have the Lovers, the Knight of Swords, Death, push these to the side, the Page of Swords, and Temperance. So this is quite the interesting spread we have here. 3 major arcana cards and 2 court cards. So let me just start with the first card that jumped out of the deck. And of course it is the Lovers, which is such a perfect card for this reading. Of course, the Lovers is about love and relationships, and it is especially about commitment. So it looks like your next date is really going to kind of push you, or at least encourage you to think about what or to whom you're committing to. When the Lovers comes up, it is a really big signal that there is love coming into your life, new relationships, and it really asks you to take that seriously and to be committed to that person and that endeavor. Next we have the Knight of Swords. Swords in the tarot correspond to the mind and to logic, and knights are very energetic. They are young, but they have some experience, so they have a lot to give, and they're very willing to grow in this area as well. In the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, this knight is riding very fast on a horse, and he's kind of just sprinting in with perhaps not as much thought as one might like to give the situation. But that's okay. This knight is kind of just rushing headlong into, this situation. And in the context of your next date, it looks like maybe either yourself or the other person are running in, just kind of abandoning logic to the winds and rushing into this date, seeing what it has in store. The next card we have here is Death. Death is often a very scary card in the tarot, and people like to stay away from it. But I find that that's not always the situation. Death, of course, corresponds to an ending, a chapter closing, something perhaps being taken from you, but also just a transformation. Oftentimes we need to close one chapter of our life before we can move on to another chapter. And so in this context, perhaps death, especially when paired with a card as serious about commitment as the Lovers, death could be a signal that your old way of life, perhaps your single life, is changing. In this card, and as well in the traditional imagery, we also see a sun coming up. So it's not just a scary ending, but there's also a new beginning in the background of death. And so I really see that perhaps your next date is the beginning of the end of your old life, who you were as a single person, and that it does mark the beginning of a new chapter. Especially when the Lovers comes up and it asks you to really commit to this relationship or this endeavor, it does require some sacrifice and letting go of perhaps your independence in some ways, not completely, as I'll get to, but it does require a big change and perhaps a closing of one chapter of your life, who you used to be. Next, we also have the Page of Swords. So we have the Knight and the Page together. The Page is kind of a younger version of the Knight. I think of them as an intern oftentimes. They're very young, they are a little bit inexperienced, but they have a lot of energy and they want to learn. And so perhaps this relationship pushes you to new depths or forces you to think about things that you haven't thought about or that you really haven't really dwelled on in the past. So if this is going to be a serious relationship, if something is going to come out of this next date, it looks like you have some learning to do, some expanding to do. But that's a good thing, because relationships can kind of act as mirrors and as really important, I hesitate to say tools because a relationship is not a tool, but a very important way for you to learn about yourself as well as another person. So I definitely see with both the Page and the Knight of Swords a lot of learning, a lot of thinking about things in new ways, a lot of growing, which is absolutely what you want out of a relationship. And I would say too, even if this next date does not result in a long-term relationship, it definitely signifies some sort of major change. And I think that especially seeing the Death card, it really prompts me to think that there will be a very major shift in your life after this next date. And finally, we end with Temperance. I love the artwork of this card. I think it's so beautiful. But in general, Temperance, it signifies the need to take a calm middle road. It cautions us about being too extreme, one end or another. And, I find oftentimes when you are looking for a relationship, you want to be open and vulnerable, but you don't want to trauma dump immediately, for example. And you still want to maintain your own life and identity, but you have to compromise and sacrifice some things in order to, make a relationship work between two people. And so when Temperance comes up, it really encourages us to seek balance, to seek a middle ground, to avoid lingering on any one extreme. In the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot, Temperance is an angel who is neither male nor female, and they have wings, but they also have one foot on the earth and one foot in the water. And all that imagery just kind of supports this message that, one extreme is not healthy, but instead we need to have our feet on the ground while our head is in the clouds dreaming. And I think this is extremely prudent advice if you're dating, if you're getting into a new relationship. Taking a healthy middle ground and not completely losing yourself in that relationship is extremely important. So once again, to review, we have the Lovers, the Knight of Swords, Death, the Page of Swords, and Temperance. And especially with the Lovers, I just think this is a huge signal that your life is about to shift and you're about to find someone who's extremely special to you. That is going to require some change in your life, some letting go, perhaps a huge shift in who you used to be and who you're becoming. And the Swords cards really indicate that this will be a major mental change as well. You're going to think about things differently. You'll think about yourself differently, the world differently. And this person may challenge you to think in ways that you didn't previously. But Temperance is also saying not to get too caught up in the rush of a new relationship or a new date. It says to take balance and to make sure that you are staying a calm middle ground. But on the whole, I do think that this is extremely positive, and I'm very excited to hear if this rings true for you or not. So as always, please let me know if this reading resonated with you. Please let me know if there is something that you want my insight on specifically. I'm always happy to give a reading for individuals, so please comment below. And finally, please don't hesitate to subscribe. It means the world to me to have you spend some time with me. So thank you so much for being here. Again, I hope this was helpful, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day.